ain't nothing. Yeah, if it ain't love, it ain't nothing.
We thank you, Lord, and we invite your presence into every aspect of our lives, especially here and now. Amen. Peace and power to the true and living. What's good, family? This is CBornNacirfaSun, and I am you. Yo, I'm excited to be coming at you with yet another powerful video. This is Reflections of a Higher Consciousness. In this video, family, we're going to be talking about abortion, the spiritual consequences. Because, abortion is such a hot topic. There's a lot of talks about abortion right now. A lot of different things being said. There's pro-abortionists, anti-abortionists, and so forth. So regardless of what side you're on, in this video, we're going to be talking about the spiritual consequences of abortion. Because the thing about it is, there is human law, but ultimately there's the law of the Creator. There's God's laws. And of course, God's law rules supreme. God's law governs life, governs creation, and so forth. So regardless of what human beings are saying about things like abortion, at the end of the day, the standard and what must guide human laws and human action is the law of God, the Creator. You know what I mean? But before we go any deeper into that, be sure to check out my merchandise store. I have some new designs out, some new designs on the way. The link is always in the description section, so be sure to click on that, browse through the store, and support the work. You know what I mean? Okay, so I have to warn you that the things that we're going to be talking about in this video, some people may find disturbing. Because we're going to be talking about, these things. It may get graphic, you know what I mean, and some people may find that disturbing. So just be warned. So with that being said, I want to start with a conversation that I had with a friend of mine a few days ago, and she was talking about how the monetary system, this system of money that we have, is really a slave system, and it doesn't work for the people, and we must get rid of it and so forth. And I was like, yeah, that's true. The monetary system, it is a slave system, but that's not the monetary system alone. Many of these systems that we have, such as the education system, the food system, the medicine system, and so forth, they're slave systems, the way they operate today, but the thing about it is, we can't just jump to the conclusion of, oh, let's get rid of it. We have to go a little deeper than that. And the real question is, how did we get to this point to where we need and depend on such a system? Because there was a time in human history where such things did not exist, and such things would not have worked. So how did we get to this point? That's the main question. That's the real question that we should be asking. And the thing to consider there is this: everything, things happen within before they manifest without. So human beings got to a point where within our inner spiritual landscape, within our spiritual life, with our inner life, we enslaved ourselves. We created slavery within ourselves, by enslaving ourselves to Luciferian ideas, to Luciferian lies. we enslaved ourselves to the intellect, which is a tool of Lucifer. So we enslaved ourselves to various Luciferian lies, to various Luciferian concepts, you know. So as a result, we saw the physical manifestation of slavery all over the world. With every human civilization, we saw the physical manifestation of slavery. That's because we created that system within ourselves first, you know. And so it manifests in various ways, not just in the system of chattel slavery. It manifests in other forms of slavery, such as the monetary system that we're seeing today, the education system that we're seeing today, in every other system, because when we create such an inner spiritual landscape, when we enslave ourselves to these Luciferian concepts and create such a landscape within our souls, the only natural result is that you will see these things manifest in various physical aspects of our life, of our lives. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's happening there. So the question is then, can we just abruptly get rid of these systems? Even though they are a slave system, we still depend on these systems. So we can't just abruptly get rid of them without destroying, our lives. So at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, it happens within before it manifests without. So at the end of the day, the real work begins from within. What's happening within human beings? What is our spiritual landscape? You know what I'm saying? What have we created within our souls? That's where the real work begins. And for a lot of us, that's a challenge. It's easier, to make all this noise here on the outside and protest against this, that, and the third, to say, this and that person is wrong. But the real work, the real issue is within here and within here. You know what I mean? What's happening within you? What's happening within us individually? That's where the real work begins. You know what I mean? So one of the purpose for which I'm making this video is, for if you are considering an abortion, or somebody who is, or whatever the case is, to consider, consider this first and be aware of the spiritual consequences, because you have to remember that we are not just living a physical life. There are spiritual consequences to the things that we're doing. And this life that we're living is creating the next life. So there are many heavy spiritual consequences to the things that we're doing in our physical life, in our physical lives, that we think it's not making a difference. And that's not the case. You know what I mean? So please be aware of this. Please consider it, and share this information with whoever you think it may be of any benefit to. You know what I mean? So first of all, let's be honest about abortion. Because one of the things that they do, because you have to remember, abortion is just like slavery, is one of those things that ends up happening due to our acceptance of Luciferian ideas and applying these things. You know, is no different from that. You know, and as I mentioned, these things have very heavy spiritual consequences. So when we're telling ourselves things like abortion is, women's right and it's health care, when we're labeling it like that, what we're doing is we're being dishonest about what abortion really is. We're being dishonest about the reality of abortion. And at the end of the day, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, the truth about abortion is that it is taking a life, right? It involves killing, right? You are denying, the existence of life by killing the physical vessel that this life must use in order to exist in this world. So it involves killing. It involves uh, the spiritual injury of a soul. It is a violation. It is a violation of life. It is a violation of God's laws. Regardless of what the situation is, those are the facts about abortion. So at the end of the day, we must at least be, honest about it to call it what it is. No matter what the situation is, no matter what the story is, that's what abortion is. It involves taking a life. It involves killing. It involves, injuring the soul. You know, and those things come with consequences, which we're going to be talking about in today's video. Those things involve consequences. You know what I mean? So let's be honest about it, and not try to, sugarcoat it and make it, and make it to be something that it's really not by calling it human right or women's right or healthcare. No, it is a very unfortunate state of being for humanity, and it speaks volumes to just how low and degenerate humanity has become. It is not anything to be proud of, you know. Regardless of the story, it's not anything to be proud of, and it's not anything to do with pride. It speaks of just how low we have fallen. You know what I mean? Here's another thing to consider in talking about just how this involves killing and the injuring of a soul. The human soul enters the body at about 4.5 months during pregnancy, right? That's when the soul enters the physical body that is growing within the mother. But before then, even before the mother becomes pregnant, the soul that is destined for this body is hanging around the mother, is within close vicinity of the mother, so that then when the mother becomes pregnant and this pregnancy reaches about 4.5 months, the soul enters this physical body. So what you're doing in the case of abortion, when this pregnancy is aborted, it is injuring this soul. So it is not just destroying the physical body, it causes great injury to the soul. And we're not going to go off too deep into that, but that's just another thing to consider when we're talking about things like abortion, because a lot of people want to paint abortion, a lot of people want to romanticize abortion. They want to make it seem like, it's some kind of a exalted, human state of being, like by, performing abortions, we're doing something great, you know, like it's some kind of a, human evolution by us performing abortion and so forth. No, it's a damn shame. It's a crime. It's very grotesque. It's evil. It's a very low and degenerate state of being when we have to do things like that, you know. And furthermore, because a lot of people are not familiar with the process of abortion. Like I said, because abortion is romanticized, they think it's just some kind of a, some kind of a, I don't know, some kind of a harmless process. No, you are killing a life and injuring, causing spiritual injury to a soul. And furthermore, the question to ask is, what are they doing to all those other body parts, the pieces of baby bodies that's chopped in pieces within the woman's womb and pulled out? What are they doing? What are they doing to those body parts? See, a lot of people are not even familiar with this process. Where you think they're having some kind of a burial process? What are they doing to it? What are they using it for? Because a lot of people are not aware of the fact that they use, these aborted pieces of baby bodies that's pulled out of women's of wombs. They're used for various things, for the creation of certain products, you know, for scientific research and donations and so forth. I mean, they're used for various purposes. That's one of the reasons why abortion is promoted the way it is. You know, there's a lot of money involved in it. It's a very lucrative thing for those people who are, it's a very lucrative thing for those people who are involved with this, who are promoting this. You know what I mean? So those are the things that a lot of people are not even aware of, and we don't consider. We think that abortion is just some kind of a harmless thing that we're doing. No, it is very, you know, it's just it's a shame. You know what I mean? Now let's talk about some of the grotesqueries. You know, in talking about spiritual consequences, let's talk about some of the grotesqueries. This life is creating the next one. You know what I mean? This very life that we are living is creating the next one. So people always talk about heaven and hell and so forth. We have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about things like heaven and hell. And a lot of people are not aware that you are literally creating your own heaven right now. This life you're living is literally creating your own heaven, or it's creating your own hell. So we talk about things like heaven and hell. That's up to you. That's a choice. So this life is creating the next one. Every aspect of the next life is being created now. So the environment that you're going to be living in, the country, the city that you're going to be living in. You know what I'm saying? The very body that you're going to be living in, that you're going to be using. You are creating now. The neighbors, the people that you're going to be living near and next to and so forth. All of that, you are creating that right now. And because a lot of us, are thinking very destructive and evil and nasty thoughts, and we're making bad decisions, and we're taking a lot of wrongful actions in this life, we are creating very, dark, hellish situations for ourselves when we leave this life. You know, and we are creating very grotesque, nasty and demonic looking bodies for ourselves when we leave this life. So things like, for example, someone who's a porn star, you're creating a very grotesque and nasty, demonic, unrecognizable, body for yourself. It's not gonna look anything like the human body. You know what I'm saying? For those of us who's addicted, to anything. You know what I'm saying? Be it gluttony, be it drinking, be it smoking. For those of us who's addicted to anything, we are creating very nasty and grotesque bodies for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So many things that we are doing is contributing, you know, to the creation of the very body that we're going to have, that we're going to be using in the next life, in the ethereal world. You know what I mean? So, as it says in the Grail message, there is, if human beings can get a glimpse into the ethereal world, into the world of thoughts and so forth, and see all these forms that we are creating, you know what I'm saying? We would, you know what I'm saying? Like that would horrify the shit out of us. You know what I'm saying? And we will sink into hopelessness because we will see that there's no way that we can, there's no way that we can redeem such things. There's no way we can fix such things. You know what I mean? So it's for our very protection that we are not allowed to see these things, that we are given an opportunity to, fix and redeem these things without being able to see them. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of human souls, ethereal human souls, ethereal human bodies that have the appearance of demon because they're so damn grotesque and so deformed. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these souls are mistaken for demons when that's not what they are. You know what I'm saying? And it's any form of grotesquerie that you can imagine, and even beyond what you can imagine. Multiple arms and heads and legs and shit growing out of your eyes and your mouth and your body. Just the grotesque nature, like the monsters and things that you see on TV. And matter of fact, a lot of these things, a lot of these things that we're able to produce, whether in picture or in movies and so forth, these things that we just think are coming from human imaginations. No, a lot of these are images that certain people are able to, see, because certain people have clairvoyant abilities and so forth, so they can see, these various ethereal forms. So it's not something that people are just making up out of their imaginations. What they are seeing are the various grotesque, forms, human forms that exist in the ethereal world. So a lot of these monsters and things that we see in comic books and magazines and movies and so forth, those are ethereal human forms. A lot of them are. You know what I mean? So that's something that we need to be aware of. Again, and we are creating this by the various life that we are living right now. The thoughts that we are thinking, you know what I'm saying? It always starts with the thoughts. You know what I mean? That's the biggest landscape of creation. You know what I'm saying? The thoughts that we're thinking, the action that we're taking, in the words that we're speaking. You know what I'm saying? We are creating the next life. You know what I mean? So be aware of that. So now let's talk about the spiritual consequence of abortion. The spiritual consequence. what happens to, we're going to talk about the spiritual consequence and also the solution. What happens to a woman who has an abortion? Now, remember what I just said about the various grotesque and deformed bodies and so forth that we have. And remember that I warned you earlier that this was going to be very disturbing. So what happens to a woman who has an abortion? What happens is that what you're doing is, when you become pregnant and then you abort this baby, what you are doing is that ethereally, the consequences of that is the body in which you are creating for yourself. Excuse me, I'm trying to be clear with what I'm saying here. So what happens to your ethereal body is that you're going to have a phantom form of this soul that you aborted. You're going to have a phantom form of that soul growing from out of your body. I believe in your neck region. You're going to have a phantom form of that body growing from out of your neck region. So what this means is that pretty much you're going to have a body growing, from out of your neck region. So this is your ethereal body. Of course, we don't see this, this doesn't happen to the physical body. So we don't see it on the physical body, and we don't feel it either, because it's not happening physically. It's happening ethereally, right? So you're going to have a phantom form of this soul that you aborted growing from out of your neck region, this body, right? And this body is going to be, pretty much a baby, a child. So it's going to look and sound and behave just as a baby would. And it's going to have the same demands and needs of a baby. So you're going to have this child, attached to you. Now, remember, this is a phantom form. So it's not the actual child, it's not the actual soul that you aborted. That soul is somewhere else, going through a recovery process of the injury that you caused to it. So it's somewhere else going through that. But what you have is a phantom form, which to you is very real. It's a very real baby. It's a very real child. Even though it's a phantom, but to you it's very real. Behaves as a child, has the same demands and needs and so forth of a child. You know what I mean? So this is what you will have. So remember earlier when I talked about, the various grotesqueries and, the grotesque nature of, of various human beings, of our ethereal bodies and so forth, of our deformed and grotesque ethereal body, due to, many decisions that we have made. These decisions have spiritual consequences. The free will is a very powerful thing, even if you don't understand your free will, even if you have corrupted your free will. You know what I mean? Ignorance is never an excuse to the spiritual operation of God's laws. Because if you're ignorant, that's your fault. You should not be ignorant, because many attempts have been made. You know what I mean? Like literally, in order to go against, the various aids that the Creator had put in place for human beings, that had to be done forcibly. because naturally we would have just fell into the various aids of the Creator without even looking for it, or or striving for it. It was just there. It was just put in place. So due to our various, due to our acceptance of various Luciferian ideas and so forth, we forcibly, tore down those various natural aids. You know, so the aid that we need is no longer there because we tore it down. You know what I mean? So ignorance is never an excuse. So in the case of abortion, this is the spiritual consequence. This is what's happening. So you have this phantom body attached to your neck region, this baby, you know what I'm saying, that clings on to you like a normal child would. So and is looking for the same thing. It needs it needs the same thing that a normal baby needs, right? So remember I told you we was going to talk about the solution also. So the solution to this situation is that the way to get rid of this phantom body that is attached to you is you must love it and care for it as you would, a normal baby. You must give it the same love and care as you would, a child, right? Because it's going to be clinging on to you, and that's what it's going to be looking for. So the way to get rid of, to free yourself of this, is to give that child, that phantom child, the same love and attention and care that you would a normal baby. You know what I mean? So that's the spiritual consequence. So all these people who's running around here and telling you that abortion is, woman's right, and that abortion is health care, they don't know what they're talking about. They have no idea of the spiritual consequence of abortion. So imagine a woman who has gotten multiple abortions. So how many phantom bodies is attached to such a woman, right? So these are the consequences of a spiritual ignorance. So again, when you see such a person in the ethereal world, this person that has multiple, heads growing out of their body, you see this and you think it's some kind of a demon, and we don't understand what's going on here. And we think it's some kind of a cruel, thing that God is doing here, now realizing it's human ignorance and human acceptance of evil Luciferian ideas and principles, some as evil as abortion. Like, what is there to argue about? We're literally murdering unborn babies in the womb. And think about the way in which it's done. They put this damn machine up the woman's body, and this thing chops up the damn body, and it suck it out through a vacuum. That's the process here. It is very evil. So the fact that we even have to have a conversation and argue over this, again, it shows just how low human beings have fallen. And you have all these people who's, encouraging women to get abortion as if it's some kind of a healthy and natural thing. No. It comes with very heavy spiritual consequences. So think about what you are doing to your ethereal body, because eventually you must die. This physical body, regardless of how pretty and beautiful it is, of how nice your titties look and how big your butt is and all that nonsense, eventually this physical body must die. It must return to the dirt, to the earth from which it came. And then what you will have remaining is your ethereal body. And your ethereal body is going to be a reflection of your inner spiritual state of being, and all the thoughts and decisions and actions that you have taken. Your ethereal body is going to be an honest representation of who you really are and what you have done. So in the case of abortion, this is what you have to look forward to. This is the spiritual consequence of abortion. So then this is, the ethereal body that you can expect to have, and then you might say, oh, but come on, CBorn, what about situations of rape? So you mean to tell me, a woman is violently attacked, by some criminal, and he rapes her, and this woman, she's stuck with this baby. She must have this baby, or this guy who traumatized her and left his seed within her, and now she has to go through the trauma of giving birth to a person who raped her. And I know such arguments may make it seem like, oh, come on, man. Such arguments, can make it seem as if God has made some kind of a mistake, as if there are mistakes, there are holes in the plan of God, and can make it seem like, in such instances, the law of God must change. Like God must change. Like, come on, God. Clearly, you didn't consider this when you were, when you were creating creation, when you were creating life. Clearly, you didn't consider all these things, God. Such instances can make it seem as that. You know what I mean? But that's not the case. The laws of God remain unchangeable. The laws of God remain perfect. So the thing to look at here, and I've made go back and look at the law of reciprocal action in my reincarnation videos that I've done. What we must consider here is that human beings have been, living in this material plane of existence, for approximately 3 million years. So your existence does not begin with this life that you're living. Your existence began very long ago, and you have lived very many lives on this earth. So the thing to consider then is, what have you done with all these many lives that you have lived? Because the thing about it is, we have made many decisions. We have done many things in previous lives, and the consequence of those decisions and those actions, they don't come back right away. It's not a guarantee that those consequences is going to come back to you in that same life. It can come back to you in a later life. And it can come back to you in the next life, or in an even later life than that. You know what I'm saying? So the time in which, the fruits of your labor catches up to you, it's not really up to you. It's up to the operation of the laws of creation. You know what I mean? So that's another thing to consider here. So we always think that we're innocent victims of circumstances. Oh, this innocent lady, she was just attacked and raped by this man. She didn't deserve that. But if you can go back and look at this woman's existence from beginning to now, then you will see where, the decisions and actions were taken, decisions were made and actions were taken that would lead to a manifestation such as rape in a later life. So of course, when we look at it from the perspective of just this life alone, from the perspective of this life alone where the rape is occurring, when we look at it from that perspective alone, then yes, it seems like an injustice when we look at it from just that perspective alone. But when we're able to survey the whole entire existence, the whole entire creation, then we see, oh, so this is what led to that, and so forth. Right? Because remember, as I said earlier, it first happens within and then it manifests without. Right? So our fate, we are creating our fate based upon our inner spiritual state of being, based upon these ideas and concepts that we harbor. You know what I'm saying? Based upon these thoughts, these deep thoughts, these thoughts that are filled with emotions and so forth. These strong thoughts and beliefs and ideas. It begins from our inner spiritual state of being, and then eventually it manifests outwardly. So see, that's the part of life, that's the part of creation that we're not seeing, right? We're stuck only in the physical, and we're trying to analyze our entire existence and the entire creation only from a physical, earthly, focal point of view. And things don't work like that. As it says in the Grail message, to truly be able to live this life on earth, to live a successful life on this earth, you must be aware of not just the physical, but you must be aware of the ethereal and the spiritual. Because even if you're not aware of that part of life, of creation, you're still involved in it. You know what I'm saying? You're still involved in that part. You still have a soul. That's the ethereal part of you. And you are a spirit. That's the spiritual part of you. You are a spiritual being. You are a spirit that is having various experience. You are a spirit that is taking on the bodies of various, worlds, so you can have these different experiences. So you're not just a physical being of flesh and blood. You know what I mean? But that's a problem. We trap ourselves only in the physical aspect of life. So then we take things like abortion to be some kind of a, right, as if we're doing something great, because we don't understand the spiritual consequences of these things that we're doing. You know what I mean? So if you're asking a question like, oh, what about rape? It's not fair to this woman. No, you say things like that because you don't understand the whole picture. And you think that there's some kind of an injustice going on here. Now, I'm not saying this. Please forgive me if it sounds like I'm justifying rape here, because I am absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, rape still remains a crime. It still remains a horrible crime. A crime that should, that is punishable and should be punishable. So forgive me if I sound like I'm justifying rape here, because I am absolutely not. You know what I mean? Absolutely not. I'm just speaking matter-of-factly about the spiritual consequences. You know what I mean? So I don't want anybody out there to look at this video and think like, I'm justifying rape. No. Rape is evil. You know what I'm saying? It is extremely evil. It is no different than slavery. Matter of fact, it is the worst form of slavery. You know what I mean? It is extremely evil. So, and of course, that comes with its own spiritual consequences as well. You know what I mean? That is punishable. That is punished. You know what I'm saying? As well. You know what I mean? So I just want to make that very clear. I am not in no way, shape, form advocating, supporting, justifying rape. And and this video is not meant to be, justifying rape in no way. And it doesn't mean that I'm not sympathetic to a rape victim, because I know people personally who have gone through this horrible thing, But the point that I'm trying to make here at the end of the day, regardless of our feelings, and that's another thing, is that we have to be able to put our feelings and our emotions aside to understand the truth and to understand what it is that's happening with us, so we can liberate ourselves from the various pain and suffering and torment that we're going through, mostly based upon our ignorance. You know what I mean? So we have to be able to discuss these things without emotions, right? We have to put those feelings aside and discuss the truth here. But at the end of the day, we are doing something wrong. There is something that we're not understanding that is leading up to all of these things. And that's one of the reasons why I'm making this video, so you can know the spiritual consequences of abortion and not think that, abortion is some kind of a right. No, it's not. It's not some kind of a right. Even if you've been raped, and I'm sorry to say, and I'm not saying that to be mean. And another thing to consider is that this child, in this case of abortion, this child is not his father. This child is a unique and completely different human spirit, because there is no such thing as spiritual heredity. You have no spiritual relations to your parents. You get nothing from your parents spiritually. You only get things from your parents at the physical level, at the level of the flesh and blood. Other than that, you don't get anything else from your parents. So this human spirit, even in the case of rape, if a woman gets raped and becomes pregnant, that human spirit is not, its father. It is an individual, unique human spirit, unique human life. You know what I mean? And regardless of the circumstance, has the right to life. You know what I mean? So that's another thing to consider. And and believe me, I know it sounds crazy as hell. I know it sounds crazy as hell. For me to sit up here and talk about talk about the spiritual consequences of abortion and say the things that I'm saying, considering the reality that, that some women have gone through, in the case of being raped and becoming pregnant. I know how crazy it sounds. But what I'm saying at the end of the day is that what we must consider as human beings is that we have done so many things that are wrong. There is a God. We have a creator. He has laws and so forth. He has given us, life. He has given us a purpose. He has given us laws. And because we have strayed so far away from those things, we have done so many things that are wrong. And these are some of the consequences of those wrong. And those consequences are very heavy. So now we live in a world where women, can be raped and become pregnant. Yes, those things happen. Of course, it's not a majority of women. Of course, it's not happening every day. But the point is that it happens. We live in a world where abortions happen. So as terrible as a situation such as a woman getting raped and becoming pregnant sounds, the real thing to think about is the foundation, is what has led to these things. And that's the part that's hard for us to accept. It's hard for us to accept that we are the ones who have done things that has led to the manifestations that we're seeing today. We are personally responsible for what is happening to us. It's so hard to accept that, because it's so easy to accept that we are victims, that life is just happening to us, that God is just being unjust, that life is just being unjust. No. Everything in this world is wrong. And this is the consequence of us being wrong. These are the various proofs that everything in this world is wrong. You know what I mean? So, again, forgive me if it sounds like I'm not being sympathetic. I understand. Believe me, I understand. But all I'm saying is that we're not going to be able, because at the end of the day, how do we stop these things from happening? Right? And all I'm saying is that we're not going to be able to stop it from happening if we're not honest about what's really happening in the first place. And if we're not honest about the role and our personal responsibility in these matters. Life is not just happening to us. I'm sorry. We're not just victims of circumstances. You know what I mean? So these are the things to consider when we talk about things like abortion. It's not an easy thing. You know what I mean? And then, of course, there's a question of, well, CBorn, you talk about the spiritual consequences involving women, but what about the spiritual consequences involving men? But if you're asking questions like that, this is the reason why it's important that you must read and experience the Grail message. Because the Grail message will help you understand the spiritual laws. And when you understand the spiritual laws, then you know such questions answer themselves. You know what I mean? So again, as always, I refer you to the Grail message. You must read and experience the Grail message for yourself, because whatever it is that I'm able to explain is nothing compared to what you will get from the personal experiencing of the Grail message. You know what I mean? So, and I know a lot of the times my explanations are not the best. You know, I try my best to be as clear and as direct as I can give it to you. You know, but a lot of times I know that, you know, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So, some things to consider when we talk about abortion is a spiritual consequence. You know what I mean? So once again, be sure to check out my merchandise store. You know what I mean? And man, the struggle is real, man. So as always, if you know of people who you think that this information, these videos that I'm making would be of benefit to, of course, be sure to share the information. We must do our part. Each one teach one. You know what I mean? Because these days it's getting harder and harder to get this kind of information out there, especially when we're talking about the Grail message. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of, they don't want the Grail message at the forefront. They don't want human beings to know about the Grail message. They don't want us to have the Word of God. You know what I'm saying? Because the Word of God give us is spiritual power, spiritual freedom, spiritual liberation. You know what I mean? So we must do we must do our part to get this out there. You know what I mean? So be sure to share this video with people who you think will benefit from it. But more importantly, experience the Grail message for yourself, and help bring the Grail message to the attention of others that you know as well. You know what I mean? So with that being said, let us pray. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to stand in the light in thy creation and know of thee, O Creator of the universe. We know of thy infinite wisdom and goodness, of thy everlasting might and inexhaustible power. Worshipping, we raise our hands and beseech thee. Lord, let thy great goodness and mercy be upon us. Amen. Peace and power to the true and living. This is CBornNacirfaSun, and I am you.
If it ain't love, it ain't nothing.